you ever wondered how the United States government was able to function? How all these moving pieces were able to work together so well in the government? I know I definitely have, which prompted me to write this speech about the three branches of the government which helps all these processes work so smoothly. The three different branches are the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. By the end of the speech, I'll make sure you know each part of the government and what their purpose is. The power of the executive branch is vested in the President of the United States, who also acts as head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The President, hereby the executive branch, is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws written by Congress and to appoint the heads of federal agencies, including the Cabinet. The Cabinet is an advisory body made up of the heads of the 15 executive departments. Appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate, the members of the Cabinet are often the President's closest confidants. Another part of the executive branch is the Executive Office of the President, or the EOP. Every day, the President is faced with several decisions that can affect America's future. To provide the support the President needs, the EOP was created in 1939 and has responsibility for tasks ranging from communicating the President's message to the American people to promoting our trade interests abroad. The EOP, overseen by the White House Chief of Staff, has traditionally been home to many of the President's closest advisors. Most are appointed with full presidential discretion. The most visible parts of the EOP are the White House Communications Office and Press Secretary's Office. The Press Secretary provides brief daily briefings for the media on the President's activities and agendas. Less visible to most Americans is the National Security Council, which advises the President on foreign policy, intelligence, and national security. The Vice President is also a part of the executive branch, ready to assume presidency should the need arise. Aside from being responsible for the execution and enforcement of laws, the President maintains the power to either sign legislation into law or to veto bills enacted by Congress, although Congress may override a veto with 2/3 of both houses. The executive branch also conducts diplomacy with other nations, and the President can negotiate and sign treaties, which also must be ratified by 2/3 of Congress. The President also has the power to issue executive orders and has the power to extend pardons and clemencies for federal crimes. Established by Article 1 of the Constitution, the legislative branch consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate, which together form the United States Congress. The Constitution grants Congress the sole authority to enact legislation and declare war, the right to confirm or reject many presidential appointments, grant money, and substantial investigative powers. Part of Congress's exercise of legislative authority is the establishment of an annual budget for the government. To this end, Congress levies taxes and tariffs to provide funding for essential government services. If enough money cannot be raised to fund the government, then Congress may also authorize borrowing to make up the difference. Both chambers of Congress have extensive investigative powers and may compel the production of evidence or testimony towards whatever end they deem necessary. Members of Congress spend much of their time holding hearings and investigations in committees. Refusal to cooperate with a congressional subpoena can result in charges of contempt to Congress, which could result in a prison term. While both chambers of Congress work together toward the same goals, each chamber has its own roles and duties. The House of Representatives is made up of 435 elected members, divided among 50 states in proportion to their total population. The presiding officer of chamber is the Speaker of House, elected by representatives. He or she is third in the line of succession to the presidency. The House has several powers assigned exclusively to it, including the power to initiate revenue bills, impeach federal officials, and elect the president in a case of an electoral college tie. The Senate is composed of 100 senators, 2 for each state. The Vice President of the United States serves as President of the Senate and may cast a decisive vote in the event of a tie in the Senate. The Senate has the sole power to confirm those of the President's appointments which require consent and to ratify treaties. The Senate also can try impeachment cases for federal officials referred to it by the House. In order to pass legislation and send it to the President for his signature, both the House and Senate must pass the same bill by majority vote. The last of the branches of government is the judicial branch. The judicial branch interprets the meaning of laws, applies laws to individual cases, and decides if laws violate the Constitution. It's composed of the Supreme Court and other federal courts. The federal court system has 3 main levels: district courts, circuit courts, which are the first level of appeal, and the Supreme Court of the United States. There are 94 district courts, 13 circuit courts, and only 1 Supreme Court. The district courts are the general trial courts. They handle trials within the federal court system, both civil and criminal. Once the federal district court has decided a case, the case can be appealed to a United States Court of Appeal. After the circuit court or state Supreme Court has ruled on a case, either party may choose to appeal to the Supreme Court. Unlike circuit court appeals, however, the Supreme Court is not required to hear their appeal. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the United States. The justices of the Supreme Court are nominated by the President and must be approved by the Senate. The court is comprised of 9 members, a Chief Justice and 8 Associate Justices. A minimum of 6 justices are required to decide a case. If there is an even number of justices, a case results in a tie. The lower court's decision stands. The Constitution also grants Congress the authority to establish other federal courts. Federal judges can only be removed through impeachment by the House of Representatives and conviction in the Senate. For the confirmation process of a judge or justice, first the President must nominate a person to fill a vacant judgeship. Then the Senate Judiciary Committee holds a hearing on the nominee and votes on whether to forward the nomination to the full Senate. If the nomination moves forward, the Senate can debate the nomination. The debate must end before the Senate can vote on whether or not to confirm the nominee.